What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Crossover MMA, back with another video. And for today, we're going to look at the welterweight division. Now, I know, we all saw Dana White's face right before the decision got read at UFC 304 in the fight between Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards. And we all saw his face before he put the belt on Bilal Muhammad after winning and becoming the new welterweight champion. So with that being said, we got to figure out what happens at welterweight now. So let's get right into it. Before I get started, I got to let you guys know that number 6 Gilbert Burns already has a fight booked against number 8 Sean Brady on September 7th. So that takes a couple guys out of the mix. And like I said, I have 2 options on how things should play out at welterweight, and they're both contingent upon a few things. And let's get right into it. So option A, the champion Bilal Muhammad would defend his title against Shavkat Rakhmonov. So Bilal's 36 years old, Shavkat's 29. Shavkat's the undefeated, coming into his prime fighter, 100% finish rate. He doesn't have any visa issues of fighting anywhere. And he's definitely, one of the candidates that the UFC would like to promote to move the division forward. I personally would love to see this fight because then we get to see how Shavkat could deal with Bilal Muhammad's pressure and pace and wrestling, because I don't think he would really back up willingly like Leon Edwards did at UFC 304. And I think that matchup makes a lot of sense. If Bilal gets past Shavkat, that's another big name on his resume, and it would make a lot of sense. Moving right along, we have the number 4 welterweight, Kobe Chaos Covington, versus the number 7 welterweight, Ian Machado Gary. Kobe Covington's 36 years old. Ian Gary's 26 years old. Ian Machado Gary, not too long ago, was clamoring for this fight. Kobe Covington kind of turned his back on it. I don't really think he wanted the fight. But to me, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you put these guys in a press conference, it's going to be must-see TV. The styles are going to match up because you have the classic striker versus grappler. And then we find out how Ian Gary deals with pressure and pace in wrestling, because that really hasn't been something he's really had to deal with so far in the UFC. And then on top of it, I think this fight should definitely be 5 rounds. I think whenever you have top 10 matchups against guys that could potentially, their very next fight could be a title fight, you have to make that fight 5 rounds. I think it does a disservice to the fighters for giving them 3-round fights, and then all of a sudden, now you got a championship fight and it's 5 rounds. You have 0 5-round fight experience. So, and then on top of it, if Kobe Covington won't make the fight, take his ranking, get him out of here, and let's move on to bigger and better things. Moving up to the next fight, we have the number 5 welterweight, Jack Della Maddalena, fighting the number 2 welterweight, Kamaru Usman. So JDM's 27, Kamaru Usman's 37. The UFC has a tendency of giving their older fighters who are on the tail end of their career to the younger up-and-coming fighters. So as a way of kind of passing the torch, and then it gives the UFC an opportunity to build up the younger, newer fighters. And also, I think this fight should be 5 rounds. That way, if JDM were to get past Kamaru Usman, he'll have some 5-round championship experience. And then on top of it, he'll be fighting a former champion, probably the 2nd greatest welterweight of all time. So I think that can definitely do some good. But then on the flip side, if Usman beats JDM, guess what? Usman's right back in the title hunt. So, I mean, I think that fight makes a lot of sense to me. And then on top of it, we've seen JDM struggle and have issues with the wrestling and grappling. I know in the Gilbert Burns fight, Gilbert Burns was having some success in the takedowns and the grappling against JDM before JDM landed that huge knee to finish Gilbert Burns at UFC 299. JDM also had the fight with Basil Hafez, where Hafez was controlling JDM, was taking him down. JDM was pulling guillotine, or jumping guillotine rather. And I think fighting Kamaru Usman, we find out if that part of JDM's game has been improved even more, or is it still an issue for him? And like I said, that fight should definitely be 5 rounds as well. Moving right along, I think the number 1 welterweight, former champion Leon Rocky Edwards, should fight the winner of Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady. And that fight should be 5 rounds. Leon Edwards, after his performance at UFC 304, I don't think he should get right back in there in a title fight. I think he definitely needs to fight down and answer a couple of questions before he gets back in there. And I think a matchup with Gilbert Burns or Sean Brady definitely will let us know if he's made any improvements of dealing with the pressure and grappling style, because the winner of that fight is going to look directly at the Bilal footage and look at it and say, hey, I can implement that same game plan and I can have success and I can beat Leon Edwards. And like I said, that fight should definitely be 5 rounds. Because, the winner is injecting themselves right back in the title talk. And I mean, to me, it just makes sense. You guys can let me know what y'all think, but to me, it makes perfect sense. Moving right along, we have the number 9 welterweight, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, fighting the number 14 welterweight, Michael Venom Page. So Wonderboy's 41, MVP's 37. I think stylistically, this is a striker's delight. It's a matchup the fans would like. I know I've seen an MVP interview where he was saying that potentially the fight would be kind of boring just based on the styles, and I can see that potentially. But I think I'm willing to risk it, and I think a lot of you guys would definitely like to see that fight as well. And then moving along, we have the number 10 welterweight, Jeff Neal, versus the number 11 welterweight, Joaquin Buckley. So Jeff Neal's on a 2-fight skid, so he's definitely got to fight down. Joaquin Buckley's number 11. He's starting to make a little bit of a name for himself. And I think that fight makes a lot of sense moving forward. And I think stylistically that would be a good matchup to see how Jeff Neal deals with the grappling of Buckley, and then we get to see how Buckley deals with somebody that has power in his hands, and if Buckley can implement his grappling on Jeff Neal. So that's option A. Then let's get right into option B. So in option B, Bilal Muhammad would defend his welterweight title against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, this fight should happen. I don't care how you feel, what you think. Bilal Shavkat is the fight to make, without a doubt. Then moving on, we have the number 1 welterweight, Leon Edwards, fighting Ian Machado Gary, who's the number 7 welterweight, and that fight should be 5 rounds. Leon's 32, Ian Machado Gary's 26. There's already a little bit of a backstory there, since Ian Gary trained a little bit at Leon's gym, and then ultimately got kicked out of the gym for, like some of his antics and bringing like the video crew in the gym. So I think that fight could be interesting stylistically. It'd be a very fun fight. You got 2 strikers that want to be at range, and they're both technical strikers. I think that fight would be exciting. And of course, that fight should definitely be 5 rounds. 2 top 10 fighters. The winner will be in title talk. Should definitely be 5 rounds. Moving right along, the number 5 welterweight, Jack Della Maddalena, should fight the number 4 welterweight, Colby Chaos Covington. So JDM's 27, Colby's 36. And if this fight were to happen, it should definitely be 5 rounds, because the winner is right in title talks. And just for the fight for JDM in option A, this fight serves the same purpose. And it also takes into account that Kamaru Usman stays at middleweight, Then we get to find out more about JDM's grappling and his wrestling and how he deals with that style of fight. And to me, the fight makes sense, especially if it being 5 rounds. Then let's move on to the next fight, and it would be the number 11 welterweight, Joaquin Buckley. He would fight the winner of Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady. I know if Sean Brady's the winner, if he beats Gilbert Burns, I kind of feel bad about having him fight down against Buckley. But this is just taking into account Wonder Boy doesn't want to fight a grappler, just a few other things, and I think that's just what we would have to do. But if Gilbert Burns were to win, I think the Gilbert Burns-Buckley fight makes a little bit more sense because Burns been on a little bit of a skid. He would just be on a 1-fight winning streak because he did just lose to Bilal and then have the injury. And then he lost to JDM as well. So I think that fight would make sense if Gilbert Burns were to win. Sean Brady, I can see it happening as well. And then that fight should just be 3 rounds. Then moving on, we have the number 9 welterweight, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, fighting the number 4 welterweight of Michael Venom Page. Like, this fight should just happen. I think both guys would be on board with it, and I think it'd be an entertaining fight. And then finally, the number 10 welterweight, Jeff Neal, should fight the number 15 welterweight, Kevin Holland. Jeff Neal's 33, Kevin Holland's 31. Like I said earlier, Jeff Neal's on a 2-fight skid, so he definitely has to fight down in the rankings. And we all know Kevin Holland's down to fight anywhere, anytime. So to me, that fight makes sense, and it would be a striker's delight as well. You get 2 guys going to be on the feet, and they're going to get after it. And I think that fight would be very entertaining as well. If you made it to this far in the video, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think, whether you agree, disagree. Comment, subscribe, and until next time.